what I've prepared for the keynote. It's called Future Proofing Next Gen Escape Room Businesses. So most of you know me personally. Some of you I'm consulting in a consulting capacity as well. But for those of you who don't know me, I'm just going to do a short, brief summary. So I was born in 1987. It was a dark day. No, just kidding. Skip forward about 3 decades. Fortunately, a bit more than 3 decades. So I entered the market of escape rooms in 2013 with my brothers. We founded ClueQuest, which is now the longest running escape room in the whole UK. We're second on the market, but the first one went out of business after COVID, unfortunately. So now we're the longest running. And in 2019, I made the decision that I am stepping away from operations in ClueQuest. That's how Zoli was born, because I was looking for my next challenge. And I started consulting businesses on how we did things and how you should grow and be able to do that with your own business. And out of that, last year I organized a field trip to the UK, people coming from the US and other countries as well, coming to London and different parts of the UK to learn about how we do things over here. Some of you have actually been on this trip. And as part of that thing, why am I telling this? As part of that little trip, I organized Game on Beta, I guess I can call it. And I thought we should have a conference in Europe, because we don't have conferences anymore. Like, we have IAPAM and all the other stuff, but we don't have a dedicated escape room conference in Europe anymore. For the past few years, I had to go all the way to the US, different states, to do conferencing. So that's why we're here today. And that's enough about me. So, moving on. I do want to address the current market and the way I think the current market is right now. This is a graph that some of you have seen from me already. This is net UK openings. So basically what this chart means is last year, I think it was 50 escape rooms closed, but only 14 opened, or something like that. So basically we have like a little negative drop in how many venues there are in the UK as a whole. And we have kind of a similar thing going on in the US, where the curve flattened out and there are a bit more escape rooms closing down than opening up. Another trend that I started seeing is there are a lot of buyouts recently, so not necessarily less venues in the countries, but it's just more condensed who owns these venues, and I know some of you actually bought escape rooms recently. So with all that being said, that we are in a slightly stabilizing, maybe slightly declining market, projection says that we are looking ahead of massive growth in the next 5 years. Research says. 5 years from now, the whole escape room market is going to be worth 2.3 times more than it does today, which is good news for us. However, there is a lot of competition going on. I'm sure all of you are aware. There are like all those different immersive escape rooms coming on the market, or not escape rooms, sorry, all those immersive experiences, live experiences. David will talk about that as well in his next, in the following talk. So there's fierce competition. So when we look at the immersive market as a whole, it's set to grow 3 times. So it just kind of shows that even though we are still growing in the escape room market, we are a little bit behind the immersive market as a whole. Because we've been around for 10 years, we are not the new kid on the block anymore. They're just new concepts popping up everywhere. So that's kind of us down there. And yeah, it is a massive market. There is research, I found research about the US, that since COVID, so since 2019, they checked 100 million credit card purchases, And research showed that people spend like 20% more on their groceries and perishables, but they spend 32% more on experiences. So that also shows that we're in the right market. People want immersive experiences. They're spending more on that. So that's on the rise. So now we have to figure out how do we join the party that we kind of go back through the 3x from 2.3x. And just some of the examples, that's Bridge Command, which is, it has like live actors and it's a fun game. It's a Star Trek inspired by game. The story of our industry. Like Phantom Peak, some of you have been there, that's quiz boxing, you have different quiz providers now, and that's kind of being rethought, and now it's immersive, and it's like a game show. Floor is Lava, I'm sure all of you have come across that. Even staple games have been rethought, like darts is a staple game, it's been around for forever, but now it's immersive. You have like projection mapping, everything is immersive. Same goes for ping pong, like now it's immersive. It's insane, but it's fun. And you have the arcade challenge places like Prison Island and Level 99 in Bodeborg. So there is a huge selection of immersive things. What does this mean for us is we need to kind of keep up with the market and not just sit on our success that we've seen so far, but kind of think about the future and how can we be around a decade from now. So that's what the customer decision process or decision making looks like now, that they have just so many immersive options. So how can you stand out from that? So what I'll be talking today, the big part of all of this, I wanted to give you all a framework for the conference that you can use to kind of pocket all the different information that you're coming across in these 2 days. And I think I came up with a pretty clever idea with that, if I do say so myself. So you might think to yourself, this doesn't sound great. We have so much competition going on. We have so much, we are not growing as quickly as the rest of the immersive market. So we need to talk about escape room generations. And I'm sure all of you have thought about before what your escape room generation is. And I attempt to reframe that for you, how you're thinking about escape room generations. So first off, some of you have seen this slide as well, but it's very important to set the record straight. When you're thinking about your product, it's not just your escape room, it's everything else that the customers are coming across. So when you're thinking about your product, what generation that is, think about everything that's attached to your product, the website, the smells in your venue, the briefing, the debrief, just your emails, how they look, how they feel to read, what the colors you're using in there, your website, the booking process. When you're thinking about a booking provider, don't think about which one's the cheapest, which one gives the best experience for people to go through the whole process, because that should be part of the experience. So this is important. So I want you to think about, instead of escape rooms, I want you to think about escape room generations. I want you to think about escape business generations. And what I mean by that, I want you to imagine that your escape room is a PC. Who here has built a PC before? Yeah, okay, quite a lot of you. Right, so imagine that your escape room is a PC. So, PCs have the different parts. So for example, it has a GPU. So the GPU is your escape room. That's what kind of shows the game, that's processing the graphics. Your hard drive is your operations. It stores the operating system. It stores everything important that you need to operate a business. Your internet connection is your upload speed, is your marketing. How quickly can you reach different parts of the internet, different customers. Your download speed is sales. How quickly can you drag people in, get the next corporate booking in, do some cold sales and be successful. Your memory is your website. Sometimes you need to clear it. It needs to process a lot of people and quickly, so it has to be very efficient. Your CPU is the central processing unit. It's everything that people go through your venue. And the motherboard is you, the owner, because you're the one who's connecting it all. Everyone still with me? Yeah? Okay, wonderful. I'm just gonna put my phone here as well, because I don't see the time, so I just wanna make sure I'm on time. Okay, so now we're gonna go through all of these and their different generations. And I have a hot take. The biggest, the top generation you will ever get to is generation 3. There's no generations beyond that. It's always, that's the top level you can get, and it will make sense why. So let's talk about the escape rooms. And I'm just gonna kind of go through the different generations and my take on what each generation means. So if you're looking at Gen 1 escape rooms today, I think Gen 1 uses mostly padlocks, it's second-hand furniture, no room management software, or maybe just you have like a timer. I would assume no one really has a Gen 1 room in here, but maybe you do. No use of special effects, it's a very basic storyline handed over on a laminated paper, which is basically just the rules, it's not really a story. But if you look at Gen 2, which I would assume most people in here at least have a Gen 2 room, is, it uses maglocks, it has custom furniture, and set design. It has its dedicated room management software, which is capable of different things that you can use to manage the room. Some use of special effects like lighting effects and audio, and it has a relatable storyline, so it is kind of interesting for people to go through the storyline. So Gen 3, in my mind, it's a tech-heavy room. It doesn't necessarily need to be. I think there is some beauty in like physical puzzles, but there is a heavy element of tech. It has a cinematic level set design. If you look at Terpica in the last few years, you need to reach that point to impress people. Theatrical level room management software. So your room is adapting to the players, it's adapting to how quickly they progress through the whole game. The music is adapting to the puzzles. I remember this talk from Up the Game 6 years ago. They already had that as far you were in the game, the music changed with you with the game. If you think about a movie, the score kind of takes you through the whole emotional journey of the room as well, or the movie. Heavy use of special effects, so fog machines, indoor rain, that kind of stuff. And it is part of an immersive world building, so it's not just its own thing, it feels like a story, it feels like you're part of a world, at least for that amount of time you're playing this. So now I want you to take a mental note of your rooms, or a physical note, if that's how you keep track of things, like what generation your rooms are. And I would recommend doing this with all the different parts that I'm going to be talking about. So all of this that I'll be talking about, different business parts, it's covered during the conference. So as you're picking up information, you can kind of pocket that information with that part of your PC to then walk away with something useful in your pocket. So the next one we are going to talk about and I'm going to go through is operations. It's very interesting that most of the time when I work with clients and to consult them on their business, usually they bring me in to work on their marketing and sales, which is super important. And what we end up doing most of the time is tidying up their operation, because it's outdated, it's not. It didn't adapt to how you could run a room nowadays. So if you're looking at Gen 1, there's no clear structure, there's no clear structure for responsibilities. There is zero or very basic documentation for stuff, which makes recruitment and training new staff very hard. And the more information there is in the business, the more you need the documentation. I come across this so much. Outdated staff manuals, outdated processes. And it doesn't matter how much you're pushing marketing if this part of your business is not set right, because you are going to be struggle to bring in more people. Like no employer branding, like no in-house career paths and talking about why it's great to work for us. No perks or benefits. Maybe the benefit is that you get free coffee, you get free coffee everywhere. And it's just a rigid organization, a Gen 1 organization. So Gen 2 would be, you have a clear organization in place, a good structure, you have up-to-date documentation and processes, and it's constantly updated. Just because you've written a manual 2 years ago, it doesn't mean that it's still relevant today, because you constantly tweak your team, you constantly tweak how you're doing things, and if you're sticking with what you've done 2 years ago, maybe your staff does it differently, but then when you have someone new coming in, they learn from your manual, and then they start picking up, and then there's a confusion, which then eventually shines through in your reviews and in your with the customers. You know, Gen 2 would have employer branding, just like internal newsletters, telling the people, telling the staff what's going on in the business, kind of laying out the future for them. You have some perks and benefits beyond just snacks. So for example, you could cover, you could join a program where like some, brain freeze. Basically, you could join a program where they get like discounts for different, like going to the dentist, to that kind of perks you could do as well here, or like get free cinema tickets. And that's really important when you're trying to attract the talented people to work for you, who then eventually can maybe grow into something. And then vision is aligned with goals and targets. So you do have a vision, not just for the next month. You know what you're doing the next couple of years, and it's all aligned with your goals and targets. So Gen 3, it's an agile organization. It means that you can adapt to whatever request is coming in through the doors. If you have a customer coming through and telling you that they want something crazy, they want to hire the whole venue, and they had this great idea to do in your venue this party. If you have an agile organization and it's a big ticket item, like 20 grand, then you do it, because why not? Like you bring in that business as well. But you need an agile organization for that, where people really know what they're doing and how they're moving about their days. You have very detailed documentation and processes, constantly updated with the latest, best thing. Also, not just kind of trying to think of how you want to do it, but you also learn from others. You go to other places, you go to conferences and bring the best, you bring the know-how back to the team. You have talent management program, so you have ways to attract the talent on the market, not just who is like signing up to be a GM, but you're basically, with an organization like this, you're a brand to work for. Competitive perks and benefits that competes with other brands on the market, and you have performance management. So you constantly give your team targets and goals, and it's followed up. It's not just left behind. It's not something that you do once a year. It's something that you constantly do, so they know what's expected of them. I read a research that the Gen Alpha and new generations, they crave that constant feedback of how they're doing and what's expected of them. So that's really important to keep in mind as well. Okay, so now let's move on to the CPU, your venue. So your venue, Gen 1 would have a basic shop front, little to no branding inside, standard customer flow, just how we used to do things 10 years ago, and a purpose-driven space. So if you're thinking about Gen 2, it has an inviting shop front, even if you are not necessarily on the main road or with a lot of foot traffic. It still is on brand. It feels very inviting. It feels like people want to go in there and explore what's inside. It has an adaptive customer flow, so your team knows how to deal with 50 people, they know how to deal with 10 people, and it still feels the same experience for people. Maybe you are changing things in the background, but you need to be able to get that many people through the doors. You have multifunctional spaces. I think that's going to become more and more important, to have rooms that can double up potentially as a meeting room when you have like a large group of corporates coming in and they need a few like breakout rooms to do like small sessions. It's important to have those multifunctional spaces. And Gen 3 would be intriguing shop front. It really invites people to find more out about you. Even the waiting areas, all the waiting areas, even your toilets are immersive in one way or another. it feels yes, Alex.
Immersive toilets.
Immersive toilets, for sure. No, I know it sounds silly, but we're all about making people forget that they're leaving the real world. They're in a different world. And yeah, toilets are part of that. If you're space themed, like make it a space toilet. So it feels for them that it's fun, like get one of those Japanese crazy toilets. I don't know. Immersive, customer flow, just everything as they're like coming through your experience should feel immersive. If your staff is breaking character as well, they need to know when they can do that and when is it allowed for them to break character. It's not like don't leave them to their own devices. It's your brand, be control of your brand. And you have an adaptive venue. It's not just some spaces doubling up as different things, but you can host different occasions and events. So, moving on to your website and what Gen 1 means for your website. I see this so many times. This is another thing that usually consulting starts with, is fixing up the website. Just because you made a website 5 years ago and it did its purpose, it doesn't mean it's good today. You really need to update everything on your website. Our website in the past 10 years went through 4 major overhauls. Just using new technologies, new designs. Customer experience flow on websites change. People don't use websites the same. Also, if you are after a certain demographics are used to different type of website flow and buttons and all that good stuff. So maybe different parts of your website need slightly different designs to kind of play into that. So Gen 1, just a one size fit all. You have the little, and I'm guilty of this as well. I've advised many people to do this as well. You have the little icons that escape rooms are for friends, for corporates, for birthday parties, hands and stags. Everyone been there, that's where we're coming from, and that's fine, but that's not where we are today. And you just have like a basic booking. It just feels like, okay, it's just doing a purpose, but it's not really part of a brand. And a lot of the times there's outdated information on websites. They're kind of left behind, not updated with the latest things. And that's where people find out about you. That's where they get their information from. So it's super important to keep up to date. So when you have a Gen 2 website, on the other hand, you do have dedicated pages and landing pages for specific demographics, images of the rooms. Who here has no images on their website about the rooms themselves, like inside? Okay, well, I don't need to go into this in more details. That's wonderful. Branded booking and just up-to-date information. If you have a Gen 3 website, you have specialized landing pages. If there is a certain campaign, there's a new landing page for that reflects that exact campaign, that exact promotion, which then can go away and then can come back when you're doing that promotion again. It has inviting photos with people in them, with videos, really talking up your brand. It has an immersive booking flow even, so it feels like that you are slowly being immersed into this world that you're about to spend a lot of money on. And it has localized information. One of the new trends is that your FAQ shouldn't be a separate page. It's just FAQ should be on every page with the relevant FAQ for that page. So people don't even have to go to another page to find out about shit. If they're on the corporate page, why are you making them go on another page? We all know how short attention spans are now today. Just give them the information right there, right then. Because if you send them on the FAQ page, they have a long list of questions and answers. Going through that, it's just maybe they lose interest and then they go on another side. Okay, so moving on, we have internet, which is both your marketing and sales. So if you're relying too much on word of mouth, you are Gen 1. It is very much an important part of our business, and it always will be a very important part of our business. But we need to move on from that because, as I said, we're not the latest and best and newest thing on the market. So word of mouth is not doing as much for us as it used to do. If you're not doing collaborations with other businesses around you, that's gem one. If you have limited social presence, if you all you do is post your team photos on your socials, that's very gem one. One size fits all approach, and no paid ads. So, however, if you are Gen 2, you are actively encouraging word of mouth. So you're creating opportunities for them to talk about your business, like purposely create something as part of your experience that you know that they're going to talk about this. And that's really important because now we need to encourage people to talk about this. Like maybe you can even allow them to take photos and videos in the room now, because that's super important that people keep talking about us. You have an active social presence. You have segmented marketing, so it's not a one size fits all. You have different type of marketing for your corporates. You have different type of marketing for multi-generational families with kids. You really need to think about who you are after, and your marketing needs to reflect that. It's just saying that, oh, it's going to be fun. It's not enough anymore. You need to like specify who's it going to be fun for, and you have paid ads. And if you're Gen 3, you have your own sales team doing cold outreach and converting big ticket items like large corporate bookings. You're constantly doing partnerships and collaborations with different businesses, figuring out how you can collaborate and work together. You encourage user-generated content that I talked about earlier. That's the best marketing you can get. It's essentially electronic word of mouth. It's the official term for it. You have very detailed marketing segments. So if you're after corporates, it's not just enough to be after corporates. You could be after the tech sector, and even within the tech sector, you could be after medium to large size businesses and find out what they're looking to achieve with their team buildings, and then you advertise to that. You find the right person who usually organizes something like this, that in the business, and you're trying to like talk to them directly with the right brochures and the right information. So you need to be very detailed and think about what they need. And you have a network of paid ads, so you're kind of everywhere. Figure out your own marketing mix to do that. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is the motherboard, which is yourselves. So, and please don't take offense with this. I was really thinking about how I gonna incorporate this, but no offense meant. I think it's just important to address this as well, because I work with so many owners across the world, and I've seen Gen 1 owners work with Gen 1, Gen 2, Gen 3 owners, and it's really important to be mindful of yourself, because you're a super important part of the business for obvious reasons. So owners who are operating themselves, you're Gen 1. You shouldn't be running games anymore, especially like if you're starting out, kind of learn the ins and outs of escape rooms, but if you are on the market for a while and if you have a staff in place, unless you enjoy it so much, you shouldn't be running your games. It should be someone else doing that for you, so you can work on something else, because you are the brain behind this operation and this business. So your time is way more valuable than to sit on a game, watch them go through that puzzle for the 200th time, and help them with the same clue that you've done 200 times. So it's important that you're not doing that. Don't be a micromanager, and again, no offense, but delegate and teach your staff to be very self-reliant and self-sufficient. Your job is not to be there to hold their hands throughout the whole process. Your job is to teach people who can do their job on their own. Ideally, they're better than you. I remember when I started building my team back in the day, I told my staff that you're better at this, you're better at that, because it's not my job to run the games. Like, they're better presenters, they're better like artists in all of that, like delivering a good briefing. I did a decent job, but why am I doing it when I can like have someone who's just way better at it? I was a bad organizer, So Game On actually is a big moment for me because I organize it on my own. And I realized that this is going to be an issue for me as an owner, that I have over 30-40 staff surrounding me and I'm a bad organizer. So what did I do? I started surrounding myself with really good organizers. And they did, the hard work for me, and then I also started learning from them. So, Game On is a bit of a pinnacle for me. And if you're a lone wolf, you're trying to do everything, well, I'm kind of Gen 1 in that respect with Game On. My wife was a big help, so maybe not that much. But anyway, and you're reactive to the market. So you're just kind of reacting to whatever's happening on the market instead of just being proactive. If you're Gen 2, on the other hand, you are very self-aware, as I was talking about the organizational thing. Just think about what your shortcomings are and try to surround yourself with people who are really good at that. Because you can learn from them, they can really help you. You delegate to the team, you network. You're here, so you're clearly networking. And you proactively change things. You're not waiting for the market to tell you that this thing is outdated now. You really try to think about it like, I think this is going to be outdated in half a year, in a year. I need to change before it gets outdated. So if you're Gen 3, you have a long-term vision. This long-term vision is communicated to your team actively. You tell them what's going on in the business, what's planned for the business. You are mindfully building your team. You actively network and try to make new connections and figure out how you can use those connections, and you're a trendsetter. So you're coming up with new things that people start copying because you're kind of thinking ahead. So that's all the computers, so that's everything in your business. And I hope you made notes for yourself which generation you are. A lot of the information provided during Game On by the wonderful speakers and workshop leaders will help you kind of level up certain things in your business. So one last thing I want to mention is peripherals. As an industry, in it for like 15 years, when the whole thing started out, you did everything for yourself because you didn't have the third-party suppliers. But now we have the third-party suppliers. So you don't have to be necessarily Gen 3 with everything, but because you can outsource. If you don't want to build a Gen 3 room, get someone do that for you. Because that's all they do, they build rooms, so they're certainly Gen 3 with what they do because that's their main thing. Or if you need someone for marketing, or if you need new props, they basically outsource because the suppliers, and check out the sponsors, shameless plug for our sponsors, because they're Gen 3 in what they do, so use them for what they do and what they're good at. Use AI for that matter, resisting that, it's a silly thing. ChatGPT was my assistant throughout this whole process, helping me write emails. I was putting in so much information, obviously. ChatGPT is not going to do the work for you. You need to tell ChatGPT what to do, but it helps tremendously and cuts down on time. It's essentially an assistant for $20 a month. Use this kind of technology, don't resist it. Right, so you might have noticed that a couple of things are missing, input and output. So, input is the stuff the world is telling you, the market is telling you, which is, trends are coming and going, it's constantly evolving and changing. New technologies become available, make use of them, and the economy changes. So everything around us changes, and it kind of comes through our keyboards and our mouse, it's telling us things. But if the whole system is slow, if you have a slow CPU or if you have a slow GPU, your ability to process that information is going to be limited. So that's why you need to always upgrade the different parts of your PC, because that will determine the reaction time of your business. And then we have output, which is our monitor. So even though if you have a wonderful GPU, you have a Gen 3 room, which is amazing, but everything around it, everything surrounding that room is Gen 1, the people not going to see that as a Gen 1, a Gen 3 room, a wonderful experience. If you have a website that doesn't reflect how cool the room is, you know, if you play video games, your game's just going to be laggy. People are going to perceive it as this is not a good game, I shouldn't go there. So the final thought I want to leave you today, and I'll wrap up the keynote, is why are there only Gen 3 things? Because the world keeps moving on. So just like a PC, your CPU that's Gen 3 today, 5 years from now, is going to be Gen 1 or Gen 2. The world constantly downgrades what you do. It constantly downgrades the different parts of your business. So your job is to keep on top of all of it and keep upgrading the different parts and be aware what generation your different parts of your business are. So I hope this analogy made sense for everyone and you can make use of what you learn here at Game On. And that's all I had to say for the opening keynote, and I want to thank you for listening to me for 45 minutes.